Welcome to my guide about Mulchami Fuwalos. Fuwa is one of the most used and strongest hand traps in the game. It also just got a reprint, making it accessible now for most players. This also means that many people were not able to test with the card yet in person. Additionally, I have seen many people who autopilot throw the Chamis in the same way every time, despite the fact that it's a big mistake, which can cost them a lot of games. Let's have a look at the standard Fuwa spot of where people actually throw them. It's very common to throw Fuwa in chain to an effect that special summons. For example, Ice Raziel's effect to summon a Raziel monster from deck. Another very common spot is before your opponent would go for an extra deck summon. For example, if your opponent controls Sage with the Eyes of Blue, he wants to link into the Blue Eyes Link 1. The last very common spot is straight up in the standby phase to play around cards like Talents or Kashtira Unicorn. All of them have different pros and cons, which we will talk about. But first, to understand it, we have to look at the basic example. This example you also have probably encountered dozens of times by now. Your opponent starts the game with Fiendsmith Tract, adding and discarding Lurry. You have Fuwa in hand. When do you throw it? Let's have a look at different outcomes really quick. If you throw the Fuwa right away on the rest of the Lurry summon, he has the option to just pass or link into Requiem. In our turn, he can go for Lacrima into Paradise for 1 interrupt as well as the Fiendsmith follow-up for just 1 draw. If we throw the Fuwa on the effect of Requiem, they will summon Lacrima from deck, send Paradise down to get 1 interrupt, and the Fiendsmith follow-up for 1 draw. Technically, they can give us another draw by summoning Necroquip Princess to draw a card themselves with like Lubellion or Engraver, and draw another card in our turn after they hand trap us. The outcome looks almost identically. So why are we even talking about this? And what's better? It's actually quite complicated, and in reality, one outcome can be a free win for you, while in the other one you are just getting cooked. How can this be? Let me show you. Let's say our opponent has Mulchami Fuwalos in hand as well. In scenario A, he can in our main phase chain link 1, activate Requiem, and chain his own Mulchami to it, while in scenario B, he cannot activate any Mulchamis at all because he always controls a card on the field. This can make a very big difference. But now let's say your opponent has Bonfire or X Raziel in hand. Suddenly he's able in scenario B to just summon X or Sword, summon Sword, search follow-up, make Detonator for just 1 more draw. While in scenario A, he has to give us 1 extra draw to get to the same outcome, because he cannot search with X while he controls deck. Another relevant card could be the top deck Imperm. If he passes on Requiem, we can shotgun and draw a standby phase the Imperm on the Requiem, and he doesn't get to attack out, so he doesn't get the Paradise for interrupt, and he doesn't get into the Fiendsmith follow-up. This can also be very detrimental in a grind game, because if he doesn't play 2 Requiems, he has to hard draw a Fiendsmith card basically to get back into the engine. Last but not least, we could have like a Kashtira Unicorn in hand. In scenario B, he can just remove our Unicorn on summon with Fiendsmith in Paradise, but in scenario A, it's very awkward for him to deal with it. If he can't stop the Unicorn with a Veiler, it threatens to rip the Desiree out of his extra deck, making the Paradise no more interrupt. Also, Unicorn sticks on the board, which can help us push through non-engine, making us win the game more likely. Let's have a conclusion about the scenario. What did we learn? It can be very important to properly throw Fuwalos at the correct timing, and we have to actively think about specific outcomes and possible punishes to properly use it. We can use this prior knowledge we just gained to talk about the standby Fuwalos scenario. You mainly want to use your Fuwa in the standby phase if you are fine with your opponent directly passing to you, instead of committing anything to the field. Usually that includes either like a Fuwa out or very high engine power hand, which is able to push through multiple hand interactions. and mini boards. If you play into cards like Unicorn or Talents anyway with your hand, you usually just keep the Fuwa for the main phase, because there isn't really a point of shotgunning it. The main punish for misusing Fuwa is to run an opponent's Mulchamis in game 1 of the match. After game 1, you have more information on your opponent's deck list and can act accordingly. Also, the amount of Fuwas does change, because people tend to side out Mulchamis for very obvious reasons going first. This does change the math and the decision making. Before we wrap it up, I will give you some more examples so that you get a better picture of everything, and I show you one of my tournament replays against a very strong Master Duel player, T2 Nibiru. Let's say we start with a hand with Fuwa, Ice Rizel, Ash Blossom, Nib and Fiendsmith in Paradise. If we go into our main phase, we will probably start with normal Ice. If we get Fuwa'd, we would Ash it, because otherwise our opponent would get 2 draws for a Detonator pass, which we don't want. And we are on the mercy that he doesn't have another hand trap. Otherwise we are very likely to lose the game, because he would only have Nibiru to back us up. If we get Fuwa'd in the standby phase, however, we have the option to just pass and have a very realistic chance of stopping our opponent with our non-engine and potentially drawing an extender for turn against many decks. Well, maybe against specifically Melons, those 3 hand traps just might not save you, but against like every reasonable deck in this game, it tends to stop them quite a bit. Let's say we hold Fuwa till the main phase and our opponent normals Ice Rizel after searching it with Bonfire. This typically indicates that he's probably playing the Fiendsmith version of the deck, because in pure Rizel and Fiendsmith Rizel, you're more likely to search X Rizel instead of Ice, because it's a better starter there. If we throw the Fuwa to the Ice Rizel, he will probably pass on Detonator, giving us 2 draws. If we wait, however, he will probably go into Moon of a Closed Heaven, forcing him to commit more bodies on the field, which can potentially play into cards like Nibiru, Bestial Magnamut, and also makes Typhon alive. But it can also backfire because our opponent gets into more interrupts in the same amount of draws, essentially. There are some decks like Blue Eyes that have different search targets and lines if they know that we will play into Mulchami Fuwalos. For example, you can search for Majesty with Prayers and stuff like this. Also, you have to think about that if you throw Fuwalos in the standby phase, you're giving your opponent information. Because if your opponent sees the Fuwalos in the standby phase, he can make reads on what cards could be in your hand and what cards are probably not in your hand. And he might be able to play around your cards better afterwards, which is something you always have to think about. Okay, let's have a look at our hand. We are playing against Nibiru right here, and we know he's playing Blue Eyes. He's playing 43 cards as well. Blue Eyes is known for playing triple tactic talents. If I look at my hand, I have a lot of engine pushes. Like I have 4 engine cards and a Maxi. I'm able to push through like a Fuwalos, and even a Maxi is completely fine. I can OTK in 4 summons easily, and that is through hand traps. So I have a very good chance of winning the game if he passes to me. Also, if he talents looks at my hand, my interactions become a lot more awkward. So, considering all of the possible options, I decide to throw the Maxi in the standby phase, which paid off big time because he actually had the talents in hand. If you look here, he starts with Sage, Searching for Veiler. Like this tells me he's very likely to not have any Primite cards in hand right now. Because if we because if he would have a Primite card, he would have probably started with that to get into the Drill Beam interruptions. But since he did not do that, it's pretty likely that he does not have that. And now he searched for Veiler. If Sage's Eyes are blue, this means he always made in hand. So there are only 2 unknown cards by now. Now he discards the Talents. This means he has 3 cards unknown and 1 is unknown. And the unknown card is most likely not a dead card. Because if the card in hand would be bad, he would have probably discarded that over the Talents. So he gives us 1 draw to get his trap interruption alive. So he passes on 1 trap, 2 Veilers and 1 blank. In my opinion, this card could be a Maxi, could be a Ash, could be Nib, could be Ogre. Or something like this. Or Purge. This kind of cards. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I start with draw phase Wanted, summon Diabellstar, it's likely to get 10 trapped. But if I throw away the driver, but what do I discard with my Diabellstar? If I discard the OSS, he will not stop it, so that's bad. If I cannot start with Oak, if I start with Vechu Temple, he would destroy it. And then my follow play would be Golem, but the Golem is not that good. So it was pretty obvious for me to start with the Golem, because the Golem will most likely eat the trap. Because he has a lot of Veilers, and the Millennium cards are notoriously crazy good against Veiler Imperm kind of cards. So I knew that if I activate the Golem, it will definitely get stopped, because you don't want these cards to snowball. And now I'm happy, because this card would just be a body, because I already have the Temple in hand. So I better out interruption. Next I activate the Temple, placing them here, but instead of starting with Sengajin, which is typically what you like to do, because you don't want to show your opponent that you have multiple extenders. But I started with OSS instead of Sengajin. Why is that? Because if I start with OSS, and activate Snake Eye Ash, he either has to Veiler it, or let it go through and roll me on res if he has a Droll. Because it could also be Droll. And yeah, like if he activates Droll, like he will just die. Because I have too many bodies and he cannot stop Otika. So if he had Veiler Droll, he would still Veiler my Snake Eye Ash. But if I would start with Sengajin, he would roll me on res and he doesn't not need to Veiler my Snake Eye Ash basically. So that's why I do it in this way around. I show him that I have an extender, but I play around all the cards better, which he can have. And it's not like he can do anything about it anyway. So this forces out a Veiler. So now I grab another Sengajin. Now I know it's not a Troll, it's not a Ghost Ogre. So I'm like, okay, this could still be a Nibiru, the Primal Being. It's unlikely to be Purge. But it could be Purge still, technically. But it's more unlikely. Yeah. So I activate Doom Dragon, place it in the spell trap zone. There isn't really a reason not to do it. Next I activate Wanted. That's mainly because I wanted him to scoop it up really quick. And here I misclicked quite hard. First of all I drew, because yeah, there are like a lot of cards which can help me beat the Nibiru essentially. Like I could draw into Cold Pie or Talents, these kind of cards, and I actually drew into Talents. So I just Talents look at hand. I know, okay, he just has 1 Veiler, which is worth nothing. And I can just out the True Light. But here I make a misclick and accidentally throw away my Oak. I wanted to send the Snake Eye Ash instead. Like you could Like, you could also make Linkuribo first, it would have been a bit cleaner, but I just wanted to go for game really quick and I saw an OTK line. But this is awkward now that I sent this away, because he still has the Veiler, so I cannot just go for an OTK line, and True Light can still summon 2 bodies. So here I have to adapt because I misclick around. So I go into the Fiendsmith's card. And here I activate Sequence. If he hand traps this right now, I can just go into Promethean get Reverend Oak, and that's still OTK. So he has to let this go through. And I go into Lacrima, grab back the Engraver and put it into my hand. Searching for a Tract. And here I go into Promethean. Because if he doesn't, if he lets Promethean through, I get into Oak. Then he has to hand trap the Oak. But if he does that, he just gives me like an extra body, which might be better, maybe not sure. But here I force out the Veiler. Next I summon back Engraver. Here I go Battle Phase, because this threatens game on board. It's 7,500. It looks like it's not game, but I can use Truck's Graveyard effect to go into the Fusion Lacrima, and this one burns for 1200. So this is game, but it's like a sneaky game, so I try to cheese him a bit. And now, but he spots it obviously because he's a good player, so I go main phase 2, and I baited this out so that I can Nightmare Phoenix this away without him setting follow-up. So I just discard it. I drew into Bonfire, which is like crazy. Now I get into multiple options. Like, I just wanted to go into, because it's negated and not foiler, so I just wanted to make Appaloosa to beat the top deck, because there's no top deck which beats Arvo.